one newspaper 7 days, and the truth that shocked the world. Isn't that thrilling? It grabs you, it puts the grabs to you. And the truth that shocked the world was that the Titanic could sink. That's the obvious thing. But the other truth is that the Titanic was built not to sink. They never actually claimed the Titanic wouldn't sink. What a magazine called The Shipbuilder said was it was practically unsinkable. And then people just forgot about the practical. You know, it's a minor detail. But it was built to withstand a collision with another ship. And it probably would have. And then what would happen would be if you collided with another ship, you would use your wireless, and they had the best wireless of the day. You would call in other ships, and you would offload the people with the lifeboats you had, so you didn't need to have lifeboats for everybody. The only example they had to go on was a collision in 1906 that occurred between the Republic and another ship off the shores of America. And that collision, the ship stayed afloat for 2 days. The ship that was damaged, that was run into, stayed afloat. 2 or 3 people had been killed, but the rest of the people were just offloaded. There were not enough lifeboats on that ship, but that never came out because everybody else was safe. Consequently, they go on with the practice of just having a few lifeboats, thinking that the only thing that's going to happen is you may have a collision with another ship. Honestly, according to one source, there are a million sources, but this source said that in the previous 20 years, about 9 million passengers had gone back and forth between New York and England from the English ports there. Now, how he knew 9 million, I don't know. The guy was named Stephen Cox, and he has a book that's in the public library. So just choosing to take that statistic, he also claims that only 82 people in that entire period lost their lives in ship collisions. You know, a few people would die, and that was it. Icebergs, you had to go back to the 1870s to come up with a serious accident. And even then, I'm not sure there was an iceberg where there was a loss of about 490 lives. In this one night, over 1,500 people are going to die because icebergs weren't a problem. Icebergs are not a problem. I mean, you know, the hearings were to establish blame. And one of the obvious persons to blame would be the captain. But the captain had been a captain for 40 years. You couldn't say that he was not experienced with the sea. I mean, he started out in the days of sailing when things were really dangerous. And he had seen in his lifetime how ships had become safer and safer and safer. So that he's quoted in an interview about 1907, several years before the Titanic, that he couldn't imagine a situation in which otherwise where a ship would sink. And he's the captain of a ship. I mean, he's had that many years of experience. They're not looking for icebergs, for icebergs. And one of the ways I signed my book is watch out for icebergs, because they were not watching for it. And so they come upon, they're traveling at 24 miles an hour, which is fast, by the way, for a ship, in case you don't know what it is. It's fast for a ship at that time. It's fast for a ship today, actually. And so who can you blame? If you don't blame the captain, the lookout. The lookout, Frederick Fleet, survived, and he was on the stands giving testimony, and I'm sure sweating, you know, great drops of blood, you know, as he was being interviewed. He was the first to see the ship, and he gave the ship 37 seconds to do anything. I mean, he just didn't see the bird. There was another man with him, and he was the first one to see. He rang down, said, "Iceberg, right ahead." And Murdoch, who was the officer in charge at that time, made the decision to try to turn the boat to the left, or to the port around the bird. And that did, in fact, doom the ship. Testimony came out during the hearings that if they just accidentally run into the bird, if nobody had seen it and they just crashed into it, the ship probably would have floated, because the forward bulkheads would have taken the blow, and probably a couple hundred people would have been killed, which is a lot of people, but the ship would have floated. they would have offloaded using their lifeboats. Nobody would have ever said anything about there not being enough lifeboats, and all would be well. There was a ship only 20 miles away from the Titanic when it hit the berg, and I'll get to that later. But anyway, he decides to turn, which is, you know, the hearing said, well, yeah, anyone directing this ship would try to miss the berg. So in 37 seconds, he gets to turn just a little bit to the left, so the iceberg, as you saw in the picture there, grazes it. And there's a wide variety of opinion as to what happened actually so far as the punctures go. And to my knowledge, that's never been satisfied. The ship is in 2,000 feet of water. The front end is intact, but it's buried in the mud. I think they've run sonar by that side of the ship, but I don't think they can really determine. The testimony taken from people on board the ship is that there were 6 holes punched into the ship, which was way too many for them to survive. If they had 3 holes or 4 holes maybe, then they might have. But that 5th hole was a very large one in the number 6 boiler room. And the boilers were numbered 6, 5, 4 in the front. So the 6th one had a huge hole, and it started filling with water tremendously fast. So by the time that the carpenter goes down and sees what's going on, they're already in serious trouble. And the ship does not have the time to offload people. Therefore, lifeboats suddenly become very, very important because the sea is dead calm. So it's actually a perfect opportunity to load people off onto lifeboats. Now, you will remember from the illustration that Mike had up there, the first boat off, and he wondered, why aren't there more people on that boat? Well, now here is another amazing thing about the Titanic and about the crew.